Hey, beautiful people. My name is Kristin. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I have a book review today on a book from my book of the month, Damnation Springs by Davidson. This is a story, it's about 442 pages long. It is a story about a small town in Northern California in the late 70s, focusing on the redwood forest and the logging community. There is a family that is struggling. Well, the whole little town is kind of struggling with a series of medical issues, particularly around infertility and just general health concerns. That maybe there's some environmental things going on because these people are experiencing this at a alarming rate, more so than the rest of society. So there's some focus. There's also focus on the trees itself. You have an environmental movement that was particularly, it's always been strong, but was kicking up in the 70s, and part of that movement, it's got that historical fiction kind of feel. I also just love, I'm very character driven. I love when characters are developed very deeply. This book did that. And then the relationships between the characters, looking at this look deeply into a small town community. It felt quite much like Bear Town that Frederick Bachman created to me. It read very much like Kristin Hannah's Four Winds, with that historical fiction and deep character, just getting so attached to the characters and the storyline, and even the characters that you don't necessarily like, they're not necessarily the likable characters. You still have an appreciation for why they do what they do, or why they think that way, or what's motivating them. And so you never quite root for the bad guy in this story, but you don't really feel so much that anybody is the bad guy, if that makes sense. You kind of understand the motivations on why people are picking the different sides. And I just loved sitting with it and having tea and coffee with it. When it got to the end of the book, I am going to tell you if there's ever spoilers in my reviews. I do that, and I am going to actually talk a little bit in these extended reviews that are just with one book. I am going to mention some spoilers, but this is all spoiler free first, so let me be clear on that. When it got to the end of this book, though, I struggled with the ending. I just, and I told people, I said, man, I think if I just ripped the last 35 pages out of this 450 page book, that it would be a 5-star for me. This is just my kind of story. And then I went back and looked, because I wanted to reread the whole ending, because I wanted to give my honest reviews and kind of sit with it a while and then ponder it and say, figure out what the author was wanting us to take away from it. And it's only the last 16 pages, y'all. The last 16 pages, I just personally didn't like it. And I don't understand why it had to be that way, or what the author specifically was saying. Now, I intentionally have not watched any other reviews on this yet, because I didn't want to be tainted by that either. So I look forward to going and seeing what other people say. But I think this overall is now a 4-star book for me. I am super glad I read it. I might consider even rereading it at some point, because I just thought, again, that it was just a beautiful story, particularly the relationships. But that is, if you like Kristin Hannah's Four Winds in particular, I would recommend giving it a go. And I would love to discuss it with you when you get to it, because I'm sure that there are people that are probably cool with the entire book. And I look forward to hearing those perspectives, because those kind of dialogues when we read a book that really touches us and makes us think is what kind of it's all about to me. So my email is EnterthebookKristin@gmail.com. Feel free to email me or leave a comment below. And now, for those of you who don't want spoilers, who want to go read the book, which might be most people since this is a new release, I will let you go, and appreciated you being here and hearing the reviews. And I am now going to start talking just a little bit, including the spoiler at the end, just to give my viewpoint for those of you who maybe like me are going to go look for the reviews and see what other people think, to get that other perspective. So take care for those leaving, and here we go for those who have remained. So, spoilers. This book has different perspectives of characters throughout it, which I love that style of writing. I struggled a little bit with the child's perspective, although they were very short. So he was only 5. I think it's very challenging to write a 5-year-old perspective that makes sense and stays congruent with the story. So for what it was, I even appreciated that there was that attempt. It didn't quite work for me. I would have probably preferred anything that had to do with him be just put into the dialogue of the adults, if that makes sense. But the part that really shook me and I did not like is you had so much angst and conflict already with the pesticides and the miscarriages and the environmental issues and saving the forest and preserving family traditions as well as environmental and economic, right, for the jobs, because it's great if we could just preserve everything to be historically beautiful, but we need resources and we need income and we need to also maintain the economy. So there's these real struggles, and then at the end to have one of the very top main characters die off without following that through all the way. Like, it's fine that Rich died, although I felt like the story would have been much more kind of poignant if he had been the voice left at the end to appreciate the goodness, because he was the one that was tying through the family, right? That was talking about standing there with his father and his grandfather and the history. And so I would have loved, like, it would have been the perfect ending for me if it had ended with his voice, with the trees, with the vision, with like even a spiritual conversation in his mind or even out loud, with his ancestors. Like, to me, that would have been the pinnacle, beautiful ending of this book. So to have him abruptly taken out of the story and then not really process through the grief, not really process through the consequences, not go through the history of what's going to happen to the land, that just felt very jarring to me, and just definitely took that 5-star down to 4 stars for me. I look forward again to seeing what other people thought, if they thought, oh, that was so, it is Damnation Springs. So I get that it's cursed, right? I get that it's got this negative connotation and that things can't work out. And maybe it's a pessimistic statement of just life, is imperfect and broken, which I agree that this world is broken and imperfect. So if that's the point of the book, I just tend to not resonate very well with those books. I like to have some hope. I don't want it all Pollyanna. I don't want everything to work out perfect. I don't want everybody to be happy, and that's not realistic. I like a little more realism that the world is broken. But this was heavy to me. The ending felt very heavy. And so that is my full review and thoughts on this book. And also, if you thought maybe you're going to read the book and then you wanted to go ahead and watch my whole review to see if you wanted to read it, because I do that too. Sometimes I just go ahead and watch a spoiler filled book to see if I still want to engage in it. So if you've done that and that's you, I'm not sorry that I read this book, and I'm not sure I would have wanted to know the ending before I read it. So you might want to pass. But if you really, again, I go back, it's very, to me, feels like The Four Winds and Kristin Hannah. So if you've read that, which is about the Dust Bowl, I probably should have said that. But historical fiction, deep characters. Yep. Yeah. I think there could have been a nice closure ending with him on the going back, telling his wife and child they had received the money and they were keeping the land and it was going to work out, and even confronting the land. That would have been a 5-star book. There you go. That's my humble opinion that I am putting out there to the world for discussion and criticism if you want to give it. But it is what it is. I hope that helps wherever you are in this journey with this book. I appreciate you stopping by. Hope that you will again. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more book reviews, y'all.